Hello, all. I think the Q&A last night went great. Don't know what you guys thought, but certainly received a lot of very positive feedback. Today can similarly work that way with Dr. Scott and, of course, followed by Bob Locke. Should make for a great one this morning. Should make for a great one. Folks, this one's special, brand new from our family company, Mr. Heels, Velvet, and Schisandra. Our dear antler tincture. This is two of the oldest tonic ingredients in traditional Chinese medicine, paired together for over 1,000 years. Deer velvet antler, ours sourced from Europe, paired together for over 1,000 years. Deer velvet antlers are from Europe, and Schisandra berry. They call it a 5-flavor berry because it's the only berry on earth that hits all 5 flavors at once: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent. The old masters prized it for exactly that reason, then a little vanilla bean to smooth it all out. 4,500 milligrams in every bottle, triple extracted, full spectrum. And fellas, I'm talking to you on this one. This is a vitality tonic, that deep foundational strength, that youthful vigor you remember, that get up and go. I mean, all of it. You know what I'm saying? Drop her a day and you build it back. 2 traditions, 1 tonic. And folks, there's a lot more to this story. The history behind these 2 ingredients, why they've been paired together for 1,000 years, what makes Deer Velvet what it is. We'll sit down soon and get into all of that on a show real soon. So stay tuned for that. For now, you can just head to MrHeels.com, look for Velvet and Schisandra, and tell them I sent you. You can find it at MrHeels.com. That one's going to be a fun one. Let me let's see where boom. There we go. Now I'm ready for you. Hello, greetings. Hello, Treebeard, Almareo, Shauna, Trish, Maverick, Trevor. Big thanks to you. Much appreciated. Hello, Land Lobster, CTP. Hello, The Promise MAGA. Had dreams of golden sugar plums dancing in my head. On my signal, birthday's the 13th. It could be our Monday. There's a lot of static going on. Las Vegas, Waymack at 55 plus, brother. I know you finally hit 56, but we stopped, right? Happy birthday, Vegas. Will it make you grow antlers? No, but it'll take advantage of the nutrients from those antlers. It's kind of like, how do I put that one? It's nitrous for men. A lot of great benefits for women to help you recover from injury, sports, etc. We're going to get into a lot of deep dives on that one. That product is 3 or 4 times stronger than most any other product out there. It is probably the flagship velvet or deer antler product on the market now. Hello, Camaro Commando's birthday as well. See if we find any more in here squeezed in before we get into the news and then Dr. Scott. Hello, Calcium Joy Night. That one's great, Jason. Even your dad liked it. You're welcome. We need to do more of those. Today, Jay Slick, 9th year since you bought some currency. I'm ready for it to explode for the good. Hello, Bear. Hello, Dagoo. Hello, Jake. The Slug, LK. Theodore became a teenager, which means for an entire year, Theodore, we get to call you teenager. T-Door? Friend of mine's daughter, that's what I would pronounce Theodore. T-Door? Cutest little thing. Now she's all grown up, just graduated from high school. No, Pam. I have been told that you are welcome to ask Dr. Scott and Bob their opinion on this one when they join us today, but I have been told no. Clarity Act and SAVE Act do not have to be passed They would prefer it, but it doesn't have to be passed. Those are laws being passed by the corporation. So if we're truly going to a republic, just think on that one. Cat's nephew, big 17 yesterday. I see that one. Kuwait leaders meet with U.S. president before revaluing. I'm gonna have to ask Jackie of New York. I'll have to ask some of my Kuwaiti friends. I don't know off the top of my head. Palma, it's okay if you enjoy Dr. Scott Day. It'll make him smile and feel good. Jordan, 34th. Lori Liberty just got her Bob Locke book. Let me put Jordan on the list. And then let's get on to some of this stuff. Kim, 60 today. I'm with you. Corpse the Ink, Tahoe. Jerry's girl, good to have you in here. Adderton down to 102 fever today. No report. Whoo. Oh, brutal. Fighting off something. Joe, you are very welcome. That Q&A was, we should have done that some time ago. It should be a great show today. I'm going to miss you guys are just ripping. I need to check out Dr. Jack Cruz. South Alabama roots. That's great. Don't let hope die. We don't know when, but it's going to happen. I mean, remember, what was it? 30 some million dollars 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. Buffett bought millions, tens of millions of dollars of Iranian and said it was a great investment in the future. So treasuries hold it. U.S. Treasury holds it. Treasuries around the world hold it. Trying to get hold of the currency. Trump story, I believe his purchase was about 17 million before his first term because he believed it was a great long-term investment. Warren Buffett jumped in a few years ago. All the people out there doubting it, all your friends, all your family, they're telling you that they are smarter than some of the wealthiest billionaires in the world. They're smarter than the central banks around the world and those bankers. I want you to think about that one. When they laugh at you, or you just, I guess they're smarter than some of the best traders in world history. I tend to pay attention to the people that have great track records, what they do, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. Let's see, Mark, we will need to sponsor a mom and pop restaurant in every county. I love the idea. I really want to do a Liberty on Main Street tour and go do pop-up podcasts from local diners throughout the rural South. Well, just period, not even rural, just rural areas, or even some blue collar diners in big cities where the working class go. We need to get a pulse on what America really thinks, not what they tell us it thinks. Alana, Belize dollars are tied directly to the U.S. dollars. 2 Belizean dollars equals 1 U.S. dollar. Every time Belize wants to print more currency, they have to get more U.S. dollars. Every dollar they get, they print too. So if it's in the first basket, of course, because it's tied directly to the U.S. dollar, but it's not in the basket because it's Belize. Does that make sense? That's one of those where they kind of fool you. I think it'd be fun to go do the diner tour. I think it'd be a lot of fun. The Gunnersville Lake in North Alabama would welcome that live broadcast. Maybe that's what we need to do when we're in do the event in Pennsylvania in September. September 12th, we'll be in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. It is time for the news. It has hit the time. Let's get to it. There's not a whole lot. The bond side remains very, very quiet with great expectations for them starting tomorrow to start processing. We're watching it. I've not heard anything differently. I am waiting. Don't know how all the Iranian flare up affects this, if it affects it at all, but I'm watching it. The expectations are still somewhere around the 10th. I've received a lot of folks that are attached to groups, etc., giving me their thoughts, what they believe we are going to see, what they are being told, and it all varies over about a 4 or 5 day window that starts tomorrow. So I'm hopeful. I'll keep you guys up to date as the chatter pops up, changes, whatever I get. Now let's get back to this one. I did want to start right here. Joe Rogan Experience podcast yesterday. They had Rupert Lowe on. Rupert Lowe talking about the report about the 250,000 sexual assaults by illegal immigrants in the UK. Massive one. Where are we sitting at right now? Let's see. I just want to look at the number of views, et cetera. It already has 1.1 million views. This one is huge. They've tried their best. They've done their best to bury it. But now Joe Rogan's had them on. This podcast will get millions and millions and millions of views. The pressure that the politicians are now feeling in the UK is massive. Guys, share it, watch it, repeat it. These victims need some kind of justice. And the politicians need to know that they have somebody to answer to. Then we're going to get on to the news. I just wanted that one to me is so much more important. All the money in the world, what does it matter if you don't do something good with it? If people are still being sold into human trafficking, if slavery still exists, if evil people are still sacrificing this baby, or you get where I'm going on this one? I think it is absolutely important. I'm going to drop that link for anybody that might want it in the chat for that Joe Rogan, Robert Lowe one. I'm hoping you guys will watch it, share it, get the word out there so that there is no place for the evil bastards to hide. Light of day, that's what cleanses it. Labor MPs still vote against the investigation. It's going to become so overwhelming, they won't have a choice. Share it, make it big. We do have power. And don't let them fool you. I think often they put the ballot box in front of you to make you feel like you're doing something. Guys, you can still step up. You can still stand on your own 2 feet. You don't have to wait for a politician to do it. You can scream and force them to do it. Now I'm going to get back to it. Let's get to Iraq. 6 new MPs take oath today. Of course, we were told they were going to try to sit committees. Now being told that many of these will get pushed until after the return of Zaidi. They are replacing the folks or the parliamentary members that have had to step down, the ones that were caught up in the operation to clear fraud, etc. They're just seating them, so they are making good progress. The vote to complete the ministerial cabinet is now after Zaidi's return. I am told that will not affect timing of an RV, though. Other than that, it's been very quiet out of Iraq overnight because all eyes are on Iran. Iran did strike back. We're going to get into that. They did have some strikes, very ineffectual. It does appear that their ability to cause damage has been highly, highly crippled. It's not gone, but highly, highly crippled. We're going to get into that very quickly before we get to Dr. Scott. I shared this last night. Gold has now overtaken the U.S. dollar in central bank reserves around the world. Gold now outpacing the dollar. This is a massive shift. Andy and I have been talking about the pivot that has been highly underreported from central banks away from U.S. dollars to gold, but now we are getting it in more and more places in print. This coming from Statista, also showing up in Middle Eastern news outlets. What I'm saying is, guys, the reset to asset-backed is occurring right in front of your eyes. These are some of the signs that it is occurring right now. These changes we've been waiting all the years for are occurring right in front of you. Now we just want them faster, right? Return to war. Iran fires ballistic missiles at Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan. after the U.S. struck 170 Iranian targets last night. Supposedly tonight's going to be even bigger. I did not think it was going to ratchet up this quickly. We may see a culmination to this conflict within days, it appears. We can be hopeful, right? First night of the attacks, 80. Last night, 170. More expected tonight. It's going to be very interesting. Falling shrapnel did not cause any casualties or material damage. It added this coming from Al Jazeera. It does appear that the strikes have been exceptionally targeted, minimizing any kind of civilian damage. I would argue at some point you have to stop minimizing it. Here's an ugly truth about war: it continues until the other side doesn't have the ability to wage war, or the people lose the will. In other words, the losses are too large, too overwhelming for them to have the will to continue to fight. If you look throughout history, that is what has ended these conflicts. Germany, crushed, the people being crushed. It had to be so unpopular. Japan, it became so devastating after Hiroshima and Nagasaki that it was not worth waging war anymore. It became so unpalatable. And throughout history, that is why they tried to demean. That is why many Islamic nations enslave, rape, mutilate, because they want to take your will to fight away. It's something to remember, guys. War's not pretty. Let's see. Bank story. My bank sent me a notification saying they have a new, more secure system going live July 13th. Boy, I'm getting a lot of reports like that, Blake. Let's see. My wife, who's Persian, said Turkey told Iran there will be a peace attendant presented Friday and they will sign the agreement. Turkey is Iran's biggest supporter. In other words, being forced to the table. It's not unlike some of the things I'm hearing, but thank you for adding that. I do love how big our community is. Yep, music fun lacks. How much is true? We get so much false reporting. We've got to somehow weave through them. Okay. So we know that Iran has struck back at other nations surrounding it. It is awfully tough when you're striking at these other countries to get them to feel bad for you. NATO summit, 6 takeaways. I thought these were pretty good. I wanted to include them. NATO, of course, Iran flare up during it. Renewed U.S. Focus on Greenland, saying, hey, we still need to provide our security. NATO now showing some willingness to have discussions about some U.S. bases, at least, or more in Greenland. U.S. is going to allow Ukraine to produce Patriot missiles. Of course, that's a license. It will take quite some time to ramp up. I think this is more of a long-term containment process against Russia or for Russia. The U.S. has changed its doctrine here. Of course, I already talked about the F-35s for Turkey. NATO allies progress on military spending. They have agreed to greatly increase their military spending and support up from 2% to 5%. 3.5% has to go directly to military. 1.5 can go to infrastructure for it, meaning plans to produce uniforms, plans to produce guns. So part of it can go into infrastructure. That is a massive change, meaning Europe will start footing a lot of its bills, lightening the load for the U.S. that has been taking the lion's share of the cost of defending Europe. Trump warns of global spread of communism at NATO summit. I really thought this one was a good one. I will get back to your questions. I can't see them very well right now, guys, just so you know where I'm at on that front before you pelter it. Trump warns of global spread of communism. I thought this one was great. He took and used the bully pulpit at the NATO summit. And here's one I think is very important. He did not duck the fact. He said, look, capitalism's not perfect. It's by far better than anything else we've experimented with in the world. Freedom has given us great progress. And then he made a direct tie to democratic socialism being basically no different than communism. It's just a new fancy word for it. He didn't make this correlation, but I'm going to make it. It's kind of like calling the Patriot Act the Patriot Act. when it was actually a massive power grab against our rights and our freedoms. You throw the pretty name on it, it's still evil, it's still authoritarian. Communism, you just give it a prettier name. You call it democratic socialism. Boy, it sounds much better, right? That's like maybe giving the scent of poop a cool name, like um, pungent rose or something like that. It doesn't change what it is, doesn't change how it really smells, just gives it a better name. I love that because it is. Democratic socialism is just throwing a pretty name. And he talks about the spread of it throughout the world and including the US. Talked about how dangerous the ideology is, but how easy it is to sell free stuff, free healthcare, free this, free that. Whoo, everybody gets a trophy. Where does the money come from? Where do the resources come from? It all sounds really, really cool. But what's the reality? Who pays for it? Who creates those goods in this huge social net? The person that works. And if you look throughout history, it sucks motivation out of the people if they can't get ahead. If every time they get ahead, that money gets spread to everybody else that doesn't work, what happens? History is replete of examples on the abuses and the evil of communism. Right, wrong, and different. People need to work. Thought it was just a great one. He was willing to go there. Canada admits Justin Trudeau's climate agenda was a scam. Okay, he didn't flat out call it a scam, but Carney, some reality has finally hit Carney. So he's backing away from it. Canada suddenly loves oil again. Former President Minister Justin Trudeau gave Canada a lost decade, a key contributor to the country's stagnation, Liberal government's obsession with climate change, and ushering in a green energy policies that were disastrous. Of course, you had a region of Canada voting to leave Canada. Many efforts as they crapped upon the oil industry and the natural resources, and it appears they have figured it out. They're suddenly coming out and saying, we were a little hasty. We need to start working on pipelines again. We need to start thinking this one through. And Carney admitting that it was ill-conceived policy that was not thought through very clearly. And now we desperately need more energy, and it is time to crank back up and start producing. This is where you guys made the difference. You folks in Canada that screamed, well, we'll just leave Canada. You're going to keep pooping on us. You're going to keep treating us like dirt and taking our resources. We're out of here. We're not allowing us to develop our resources. You shook them. Europe, suffering from massive stagnation, is now, going, we really messed up on this push. We should have thought about it clearly. What are the long-term consequences? What are the short-term consequences? What are the medium-term consequences? How do we balance it all and still make the environment better without killing people or impoverishing them? I love it. This is you guys standing up. This is how it makes a difference. When you start watching videos like this one, you start sharing them. They can no longer hide the rapes. There's no place for the politicians to hide. When you guys gave them no place to hide in Canada, they reversed their position. You have to give them no place to hide. Truth is the great bleach in this cesspool for these folks. I just got a kick out of this one. J.P. Pritzker claims Trump has dementia, going, I'm not a doctor, but it's pretty suspect. This is the guy that defended Biden as he wandered aimlessly through the Rose Garden, not certain where he was at. This is the person that defended Biden when he thought his wife was his long dead sister. This is the person that defended Biden when he couldn't remember his son. Clearly full of dementia. And I'm not a doctor, but I think he's Pritzker. I don't think there's any way that you could have less moral high ground on this one after you spent 4 years defending the mental acuity of a vegetable. I mean, zucchinis were more capable than that man. And now, you don't even have, even if he's right, we don't have to listen to him. How will CMKX holders be notified? I am told we will initially be notified by email. And that's why I tell everybody to make certain they go to Transfer Online and update their contact information for their certs. Anybody that's not contacted, I was told they will issue a toll-free number or a internet link so that you can go and make your claims. All right, let's get. Ooh, I haven't had zucchini bread in a long time. Boy, I wasn't a fan when I was a kid because it was zucchini bread, and I wouldn't give it a share assessment, a fair assessment. Okay, there we go, a fair shake. But as I got older, I was like, whoa, this is actually really good. My grandmother used to make it all the time. That's just history. Love it. Looking back on the past, kind of magical. I was so blessed with a great family. No family's perfect, but I was blessed with one of the greatest in history in my book. Let's see. Do you think Trump could have gotten in the RV in the second term? I do think he could have gotten in the RV in the second term. I'm not convinced that for long-term humanity, it's not better that it waited, but I don't know. History will tell us that. Are you going to be in September in Newcastle? No, I'm going to Greencastle. Greencastle, Pennsylvania will be there September 12th in Greencastle. All right, guys, we really need to get this fella in here as he's meditating and preparing. Yeah, right.
Right.
We're gonna mind meld. It's gonna be what is the whole Vulcan?
So anyway, hey man, what's going on?
Not much. I was pretty excited about the news I've been hearing of late. Have you been hearing anything fun that you would like to share?
Well, a couple things I wanted to kind of get with you. So Iran ratchets up at the same exact time frame, and I'm going to be doing a very long video. You guys can see it. I'm gonna back off a little bit. Something here. Iran's going to do I'm going to do a big long video about all the currencies are tanking right now, and it's actually hitting within the last month. And I'm going to show this probably next week. And I have all this data that's just lining up in the real interesting way. And I find it fascinating that Trump is probably doing this kind of thing, that it nearly at the same time from, again, we wouldn't do it this way, but, remember the currencies are, because of Bretton Woods 1944, are tied to oil. So if you think about this, why would you do it with Iran? I mean, we keep getting upset with the Iran issue, right? I mean, everyone's all upset. Trump's delayed everything. And here's the thing. Every day that you delay, what you do is you push off the petrodollar. What is the petrodollar? The petrodollar is the fiat dollar, okay? Or the fiat system. What you do is you crank down the fiat system to its 0 point. And when you do that, you drain the economies of the world. And on top of that, Mark just showed you, and I've got other data that says the same thing, that they have been, and it's not going to be for them. The central banks have been adding gold like nobody's business. Are they going to benefit from the gold? The answer is no. Those are going to be national banks for the national treasuries. So this is what's happening. I think that's the background of something you guys got to catch, is that they're tanking Trump and the White Hats are tanking the currencies of every nation. And I mean, I only could track like about 6 to 12 of them. I couldn't remember the exact number. And I'm going to show this to you guys, next week. You guys can watch it on my channel at drscottyoung.com or at Dr. Scott Young on YouTube. So you guys can check that out a little bit more with that too. So
here's a great one before you get into your presentation, because Robert, you nailed it. If the QFS is a system, will on all accounts be protected, utilized? Why would we need? You can't set up a QFS account yet.
You cannot. No,
there's too many people out there scamming, trying to get you to set up one.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Robert.
In other words, Robert's nailed it. Robert, your thinking is solid.
Right. So, I mean, but just guys, don't do it. Don't do it. And by the way, it leads me into what I had to do yesterday. Okay. So one of the things that I have book sales, because I have plenty of books that I've written out there, and I have YouTube, stuff that I get. So one of the things that happened to me is Amazon said we can't send to your bank anymore, and by August like 7th, I have a small bank that has been having a lot of problems with electronic payments of different types. Long story with that one. Don't get me off on this. So I had to go from a $1 billion bank, which is a relatively small bank. Okay, it's very common, like a credit union type of bank, and I'm moving my ministry account, so it's a savings and a checking account. And so I've been God's been poking at me for a while, and so I opened up, and so I pulled out my EIN and articles of corporation. By the way, it's the same exact thing that we're talking about when you go to, an RV appointment, right? And so I pulled all I have my little booklet. These are things that you would open up just like I would do with an S corporation, just like you do with an LLC, right? So I don't make an appointment. I go in there. I get a kid, that he's doesn't know all the things that he's doing, right? So it's a bank setup appointment. So my wife and I are sitting down there. He, it literally goes from basically 10 o'clock, and we leave at 11:30. Okay. And by the way, I hadn't pulled out the right paperwork exactly, but I had all my book of information. And so it goes along, and we asked him if there was new database stuff, new information. He goes, yeah, there's a lot of new changes. Same stuff that's happening. But one of the things that's so fascinating is that you guys are asking this question: how difficult is it when it comes to the appointment? Two forms of ID, articles of incorporation, which is something that, I mean, to do it, you're not going to have articles of incorporation, but I had EIN kind of thing. It's not even that hard. I mean, if you've ever set up a business, and so many of you go, I've never done that before. I don't know what to do.
Not that tough.
It's not that tough. It's slightly harder than opening up a personal bank account, which is basically like filling out some paperwork and doing some other things. That's how hard it is. And frankly, I gave him wrong pieces of information. I'm like, no, give me that one. This got to give you this one, right? And because I have all kinds of different things. I have a trust this, and I have that, and I have this one, and he was like, oh yeah, that's the right one. But guys, I'm just telling you, it's not that tough. And so it got all set up here, and it just my wife and I were kind of talking under our breath here a little bit. It is not as tough as you think it is. So that's just one area with that too. I want to kind of do a few things. This just came up, and by the way, I'm going to share with you. I did a form for penalty and interest, and that's related to that. No, you can leave it up on the screen here. There is a form 843 for penalties and interest form that I actually wrote up. Okay, and I did it, I don't know, a couple 3 months ago, right? And so I'm telling them it's unfair. I'm not going to pay it. You guys need to just delete the amount. This came to me just today, by the way. I don't want you to focus on the part above, okay? The IRS, and I don't have to bring this up here. This is pretty easy to see. The IRS is making this change, by the way, all these little changes, to promote fairness and consistency in the application of penalty relief. penalty relief while encouraging voluntary compliance. They're encouraging voluntary compliance. What the heck does that mean? They want you to voluntarily comply to pay what? Your IRS. They're giving penalties. Now, I want you to hear this letter that was related to this. I've gotten several of these little letters. Thank you for your correspondence in March. Find the forms. If you have questions, if you prefer, you can write to this address. When you write, include the copy of the letter and your telephone number. Keep this record for your court. This is the kind of letters that you can get, and you can get all upset about this kind of stuff, or you can just kind of go, you know what? You can, and I've had people go, I'm just a little old lady and they're bothering me so much. You know what? Calm down. I'm not trying to be rude here, but you know what? Don't be all worried. The people that you think that they are not as big as you think they are. I truly believe that the next one here that we're going to show tariffs to check. So if you can bring that one up here. This is what I believe that they are going to morph into. Joe M., anyone who's ever seen him on X has got something. Tariffs allowed every shipping container coming in or out of the USA to be weighed and x-rayed. What if, guys, that we go from the IRS to the ERS, and the IRS that has harassed the snot out of every single citizen now takes its job to be in the External Revenue Service and utilizes this conversation of tariffs, and all they do is harass government officials and tariffs of external groups, meaning that when you go in and someone brings in goods from outside the nation, they are actually looking at that those products that come in, and Nancy Pelosi types, Nancy's gonna be gone, that they get to actually see every single thing inside of the nation. So evergreen, by the way, is how they actually bring in tons of child trafficking. Oh my gosh, guys. He nailed it. I never thought of this, and I'm telling you, this is so amazing that I never made the connection that tariffs could actually stop child trafficking. Wow. And it could come right directly from the ERS. Okay. So let me show you another one here. Negative income, if you don't mind. Thanks, man. You got it perfectly on. I've been putting it in order. This is something that I think is happening and basically related to what's occurring. This is the fiat system. Okay. I want you to see this January of 2024. Look at how much disposable income. Now, this is all fiat system. We had a lot of disposable income. It goes down, it goes down. It spikes up a little bit in April of 25. Why? Because Trump gets in office, right? And then it's been going down until we have negative income. Now, Trump tells you everything's good. Why is he saying everything is good? It's because it's going to be good. We have negative income for people, and it's because what they're doing is they're tanking the fiat system. This is what Mark was talking about here in a second. Okay, so guess what? Businesses are feeling this everywhere. So look at the next screen here, labor at the lowest levels. Oops, sorry. So this is from the Fed. Labor forces at its lowest rates. Now, Trump allowed for this thing called the H-1B1, and this is a part of this. So we're seeing labor at its lowest rate. Why is labor at the lowest rate? He allowed for the H-1B1 kind of stuff, and that is actually it's because what was happening, he's trying to show off the stupid of the system. Okay, and the reality is that no one's hiring because the fiat system is dying. Okay, so we're seeing some of the death of that system with it too. So this is the cool part here. Let me pull this one off the screen here too, and we'll do the last one. We're also seeing the bubbles of the system, and the bubbles of the system are hitting. Like in 72 we had a bubble, 88 we had a bubble in the market, 2000 we had a massive bubble, and we're having another bubble that's hitting around in this time frame. Guys, we are sitting at another bubble, and all of these people are looking at a bubble. Now I want to tell you about something that has been happening in the background, and so I'm going to pull this off the screen here. So the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve did a test. And this test is so stupid. I'm going to use an example of how military would do a test. Okay. What they do is like DEFCON. DEFCON 5 is we're at DEFCON 5, which means we're at peace. DEFCON 1 means we're at nuclear war. Okay. So if in 1984 I was going to college, I had no one knew about this, right? So DEFCON, the Soviets, we were doing a military move around, and we were doing major European actions, a practice in essence, and the Soviets mistook what we were doing. They, in essence, in their terminology, they actually moved themselves from their level of a DEFCON 5, and they popped it almost to DEFCON 2 because they misunderstood what we were doing. We almost hit World War II, or World War III, excuse me, in 1984. The Federal Reserve just did
didn't we just have World War 11?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Ilmar believes that we had World War 11. Correct. That's how stupid they are. So the Federal Reserve just released a report in June of 2026, and what they did is they actually said if we had a banking level of DEFCON 1 in essence. And they said if the markets went down to like DEFCON 1, and I'm simplifying, and it was basically $700 billion drop, and I'm going, that's DEFCON 4, you morons. Absolute moronic stuff. And I'm going to talk about this on with Dave at XRP here. X22 here in about an hour. And I'm like, you idiots. Ratchet that test up about 100 times, and that's what's coming. And they said, oh, we passed the test just fine. There's no problems with a $700 billion drop in the economy. And I'm like, you idiots, you don't know what you're talking about. And they said we could easily make it. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you. There's stuff in the background that's happening. They have no idea because they don't want to hear it. They're talking in a vacuum tube, and they're just talking to one another. So that's where I'm just telling you what's happening in the background with that too. Okay. Do you want to answer any other questions you got?
There are going to be a ton of them, I'm certain. Yeah, a lot of folks like X22.
Yeah, I was on his show once, and then I realized he likes to be emailed, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll email you. So,
yeah, I think I did myself a disservice by not going on all those shows way back when they were pushing me. Just wasn't enough time in my day. No, X, yeah, he's great. He is great. this is your chance, guys.
Actually, he's been talking about $20,000 gold-backed currency over and over again on X, and he is pushing it like crazy, and I'm like, dude, So I kept going, dude. I love what you're talking about. I think we're showing it left and right, and you have been talking about it in different ways too. So I just said we need to talk about some of that stuff.
Folks, here's your chance. We do, of course, in like 15 minutes or so, we'll end up adding Bob Locke to it, which I'm kind of looking forward to having both you guys on here at one time for the crossover. Of course, you can go the whole time if you want and bounce questions. Question for Dr. Scott. We've got a couple of them coming for you now, Dr. Scott. How does all the economic stability steps the DJT is doing manifest the RV? What can we anticipate seeing just before we get a go?
Well, man, dang it, dude, that is an awesome question. What I always kind of thought, this is the Scott idea back in 2020. I just thought, kind of like you have I have this app that my son set up. It's called Casa, right? And on Casa, we have a lot of our lights that's set up, and you basically go on, and I'm going to show you this little thing. And it like turns on all the lights, right? And it turns them off, right? So I thought, in essence, you would turn the QFS on and you would turn off the Fiat off, right? I just thought it was like, boop, I just thought it would be like a little switch. And in essence, that's kind of what would happen. But what they're doing is they're bankrupting them. They've been doing it a little bit at a time, but now they're bankrupting the currencies. And yet, on top of that, they've been adding gold into the banks. See, the banks have not been getting the gold. They've been leaving the gold on the sidelines for a long time. So what they're doing is that what they do is they're bankrupt the currencies. They're adding the gold so that when they do it, it's like you're playing Monopoly with all of your friends, and by the time the end of the game comes, and you look around at all the other players, they got nothing left. I mean, it's like when you look at all the players, all of their properties are all in your hands, and I'm like, what do you keep playing for? I don't even know why you're playing. Why you keep going around the board? That's kind of the point that's happening. So that's kind of what we're seeing. So the QFS is also a new way to vote. I have been saying this for
QVS.
I just think that you walk in, the QFS is a way, is an identifier in essence to this. So I think what will happen is you'll walk in to the QFS and I have an identifier, and people have asked, is this Social Security number? I think in the first part you might just do use Social Security. Later on you might go away from it. I don't know with that too. Dr. Scott doesn't need an account with EIN to force taxes into it. EIN is just, don't think IRS, EIN is just a way of identifying a corporation with that too. Again, what I love about what Trump is doing, I would have closed the IRS. This is what Scott would have done. What Trump is doing is flipping the IRS to the ERS. So in essence, what you're doing is keeping the corporation type around of the ERS, so you don't have to worry about taxation, but you have the corporation type around. So you can still have an EIN under the ERS. And did I make sense with that? I hope I did.
Any news on when the rainbow currency, when we might see it?
I don't think the rainbow currency happens until you actually are post tier 4 be your tier 5. I think when that happens, everyone knows everything that's going on. It's all in the past too. Hey, Kukla. I noticed that Wendy actually changed your thing in the background with the curly cues on the hair too. So anyway, so there's a really almost unlimited supply of silver stored in Greenland. That's the conversation. Now, if there's an unlimited supply in Greenland, that would actually tank the price of silver. I don't believe that we have an unlimited supply. I think we have a significant supply. I don't think that silver is part of the asset backed of the currencies. I still believe that that gold is the backing of the currencies. So that's my thing. I think silver is the floater. I think you have to unhook the silver from from what the banks try to do with that. So where do I go to register foreign currency for the reval? You don't have to register it. Tons of people have foreign currency. What they're going to look at it is you can use a black light to see if it's a real currency with that too. So that's all they're going to look for with that too. So, what is the value of gold in the USD at the RV? Well, that's the key question. Treasury is going to set it, and once Treasury sets it, and by the way, why does Mark say this? Why does Scott say it this way? It's because we're talking from history. Mark and I are economic historians, okay? And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to elevate myself to that. I'm going to elevate Mark to we are economic historians because we think on that kind of level. We look back at history and talk about history. Why are you going to reinvent the wheel? Treasury is the vehicle that was set up in 1781 or 1789. Geez, man, I'm going to get that wrong, but you get the idea. And what they did is they set the price of gold, and they set it, and that's the monetary system. Article 1, Section 8, Article 1, Section 10. And so that sets the price of gold so that we set our monetary system based upon it with that too. When does Fort Knox get audited? It doesn't. It's the fake. It's like saying, I wish I knew, I wish I knew how much like if you go on a date with a woman and you say, how much do you weigh? You would be like, you'd probably be thrown out right on the date. It's probably not a good idea to ask, right? So it's not a good idea. What does ERS stand for? It means External Revenue Service, just like IRS is internal, meaning that they focus on me. They're focusing outward with that too. So, do you have a deep dive on foreign currency is treated as property for taxes? Meaning exchange will be a regular tax rate. I'm trying to see if I understand you here. After a deep dive of foreign currency is treated for property taxes, exchange will be at regular tax rate. So exchanges won't have a regular tax rate. There's no like IRS capital gains. None of that stuff will be tax rate. Property tax is still a state level thing. It has to be solved there. Only has to be solved at that level with that too. So. Does public announcement for the Republic need to be done? No, that's the.
No, I think he did that with his 4th of July address.
I think he's done it several times. I think he's he's posed it in different ways with that too. He said it over and again with that too. Do you think the Iraqi PM coming to a U.S. will bring about the rate change? He's brought that the dude over many times. I don't see that as a thing. I don't think there's an external thing that anyone points to because I think you want to be secretive when you want to launch this. So, The EIN is under the corporation. I understand what you're saying, but you're going to still utilize some of the corporation to create the systems. You're not going to throw away all the things that are out there. Like, um, do we have some of these things that are out there? We can still steal steal some of the concepts, and because why can't we utilize an EIN? It's just an identifier of a profit or nonprofit organization. There's nothing wrong with it. So don't get too unmarried of some of these things with that too. So, is the SAVE Act being delayed as a clarity genius for QFS? No, I think the SAVE Act, I think the SAVE Act, the delay to the SAVE Act is to show the corruption of Congress and Senate. I think that's really the point. The Clarity Act, the Genius Act. I believe the Clarity Act was passed. I truly believe that the Clarity Act that people believe was not passed was passed in the better big beautiful bill, because I say that really, I mean, and there was a secondary bill, and now you're going to catch me on it. I cannot remember. There was a secondary bill that basically had talked about basically that you can't do digital currencies, and it had basically there was a type of bill that said that these clarity genius points that they would have a placement inside of the economy. So like the all these cool different things were there. Now they added the Clarity Act just to add a few points of clarity to them. But I don't think they need to be there. I just don't think we have to do something for it with that. When Judy Shelton comes on into the forefront, I think that she's still there. I think she's in the background. She might be the connector between Warsh and Scott Bessent. Would that not be cool? Would she not be the person that kind of talks to both sides? I've seen her sit between the two of them in Senate hearings. So, what will happen to compound interest after Nassar? I think it dies. I think you go back to simple interest. That's the thing that that is illegal in the 14th Amendment under the 4th section. I think it's inherently evil with that.
What will happen to compound interest after Nassar?
That's what I'm saying. A compound interest is inherently evil with that too. So, are you in agreement with Mr. Mr. Contrell on gold coming from the Chinese elders? I think it came from the Chinese elders, but I think it came from different sources. I think that the gold has been stolen from a ton of different sources. I mean, I've heard that. I've heard the Chinese elders. I don't think it's just Chinese elders. Again, he talks about his Chinese elders. I call them the anti-cabal. I had a different level of conversations a long time ago. I call them. You guys call them the Chinese elders. Some people call them the white hats. I was told it was called the anti-cabal. That's how I was brought up being told. They had it from the Philippines. That's one place of where the gold was stored. The China, Solomon level gold. Some of that stuff came from Israel. Some of it came from the Vatican. Some of it came from the city of London. Some of it came from a whole bunch of different places too. So, wouldn't tying silver to the making large amounts of silver unavailable to the industry? So gold makes sense. I just think what you do is that they have been screwing with silver. The banking industry has been screwing with silver for a long time. And dude, I cannot remember this, but I mean, when GameStop, when the Reddit post group and that Reddit group got together and they were messing with GameStop and they were shorting GameStop, I think what they did is they actually showed a way that you could mess with the banking industries. And they actually did a movie about it. It was such a dumb movie in this way. Silver actually has been shorted for a very, very long time. When you take away the capabilities of the banking industry, what you'll do is you'll take away the ability for them to mess with silver, and silver will just skyrocket. So,
yeah, silver. I'm looking for it to skyrocket. If I get into a Faraday cage, a Faraday bag of RV, will the aliens still be able to scan Quincy's?
will the aliens be able to see this? This is my ring finger.
I think they're misunderstanding EIN and they're hearing it as ERN. I think here on this one.
Yeah, EIN is basically that identifier.
Employer identification number.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, I never remember off the top of my head. If the wars are ended, will there be a unilateral control by the U.S.? No, I just think it's not U.S. controlling it. U.S. is just going to be the biggest player in that circumstance with that too. Will currency revaluation across the countries? I mean, and this is one of the reasons why some people, I'm going to probably do this. This is why some people very, very mistakenly believe in that we're going to be in the millennial reign of Christ. And that is the biggest lie in the history of the planet. We are not going to be in 1,000 years of peace. You don't know the Bible if you think that. Sorry. Is EIN or for the tax line aligned with common law? No, it's not. But again, if you're canceling out the ERS and you're making all of them be the IRS and you're making them ERS, they have no power over you. When you're in the quantum financial system and you are privatized, stop at that point. You're privatized. They have no control over you, so they can't touch you, right? So in essence, what will happen is they can't see you. So the corporation is just an identifier that you're utilizing. And so I've kind of perceived, Scott perception is that you'll have two different basic identifiers that you'll open up in the future. Is that you'll have profit and nonprofit. Nonprofit will mean that for sales tax reasons, that you could kind of have a nonprofit organization that you wouldn't have sales tax attached when you go in and buy things. But if you're a corporation, you'd have to pay sales tax. Forget about any capital gains or anything like that too. So, will banks show us how to access in a digital account? Well, you already can. I mean, by the way, when I opened up this bank account, the very first thing that I wanted them to do is get me up in their online banking, right? By the way, that's one of the things you're going to want to do when you have that appointment. Is they're going to show you how to get onto their online bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whatever it is, and be able to sign into that account. See when this guy Bruce and some of these other guys that tell you about you sign into your QFS, I'm like, dude, you're killing me. I mean, like, stop with signing into your quantum financial system, your quantum financial account. All you're doing is signing in to that bank account. I mean, you're signing into their bank. They're creating a new bank account for you. He's making it too dang hard.
We've got Bob hiding in here. I was just thinking some of these questions would have been just ideal for Bob's
Right,
wheelhouse.
Bob, go for it, man. I mean, don't you agree? I mean, it's just
morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, man. Saw you just 2 days ago.
I know.
Good to see you, Bob.
Yeah, you know what? People get so confused and make this so complex. I mean, QFS is just blockchain technology applied to financial systems. So
Amen.
what you have is transparency. What you have is complete control because you decide rather than the bank who gets to see any information related to your account. So you have a bank account and it's running on a quantum financial system, ledger system that is, more secure than anything we've ever had and eliminates the possibility that the bank can play with your account the way that they can today.
Correct. Yep. It's people making it too hard on that, right? Perfect statement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, while it is a complex event, at the street level, it's far more simple, and we're trying to overly complicate things. But then that's not unexpected. How many people have dealt with those kinds of numbers before in their lives? How many people have dealt with these big things before?
No, I mean, we've talked about that. This is going to be in terms of liquidity. People, wring their hands about, what will they do and will they have enough? You're going to have more liquid wealth if you've even got a little bit of speculated foreign currency. You're going to have more liquidity than you've ever had in your life. Now the question is, how do you protect it and manage it and grow it, right?
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Buy my book.
Yeah, buy your book.
Buy my book. Then I mean, that's all it is. It talks to people that are in this world of awaiting the RV and how to build your team of professionals, not just hire people, but create a real team that is focused on what your goals are. And they're there to work together to help you accomplish that, because you're going to be sitting there and it's going to be, Jane Hathaway, running after you, right? And Mr. Drysdale trying to get your business. And, how do you do that? How do you locate the good people? How do you hire them? How do you manage them? And that's going to be the biggest challenge for the people going forward.
Yeah, let's see. It's unfortunately, a lot of people have gotten bad information. Now you got to unlearn it, relearn it, and I'm not going to be right, and Dr. Scott's not going to be right, and Bob's not going to be right 100% of the time. That's something that we're going to have to remember, folks. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We know what is most probable.
Well,
do you know what I find too is that people get upset and then they ask for information. And Wendy was talking about this last night. They ask for information, and then we give them information, and we'll tell them, like, go to Bob's book or go to this, or go. I mean, like, whether it's, I mean, even like conversations about end time issues, right? And I'm like, go, you can buy my book or you can go online and watch my videos for free, right? Whatever that is. And they go, well, we'll see. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You are watching, you're consuming a ton of content and you're going to these other people, and you're consuming hours upon hours of content, and yet you won't go and research for yourself, whatever that is. And you're pissed off at me because I tell you a contrarian point. I don't know what to do with you.
You know what? I mean, people are sitting there. You're right, because the resources are there, right? And like Mark said, nobody knows when this thing's exactly going to go. And that's what makes it so important to utilize the time that we have, because we know, I mean, mainstream media is awash with indicators that it's coming, imminently. Now is the time to prepare yourself so that you're not a deer in the headlights when you actually have to go to your appointment, and after the appointment, when you need to compartmentalize things and figure out what's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Wouldn't it be better to have that stuff already in your head and on paper, before that happens so that you can sleep at night and you don't have to get crazy, you know?
Do you want to take questions, or something you want to cover today, Bob? I mean, of course, you're probably going to get at many questions. If you heard anything about CMKX, if you heard anything about bonds, if you heard anything about when common law starts.
I've actually heard from people who have friends who are attorneys who are starting to focus on common law, not large numbers, but I find it very interesting. And, the good thing about a transition in the legal system to a common law system is common law has always been there. So the transition is a mindset more than anything else, and the legal system is set up for continuing legal education. So I'm sure all the modules for that stuff have been prepared for a while, and it's just, okay, this year you're going to be, you have so many hours of continuing legal education that you have to do to stay licensed, and these are the things that we're going to focus on, kind of a thing. In terms of best way to buy a family member a large ticket item, and this is just, my preference. I've used corporations, I've used LLCs. I use trusts now. I find them much more appropriate for things like large ticket items, and make it a practice. If I buy a new car, I put it into its own trust. If I'm going to buy a house, I'll put it into its own trust. It gives me privacy, gives me insulation from liability, takes out the probate costs that sap so many people's estates. And depending upon how you set it up, estate tax, if it's still around, it will help to ameliorate a lot of the costs associated with that, and sometimes all of them. So I would put it in trust.
You'd made the comment earlier, Dr. Scott, about compound interest going away. I guess somebody just saying, hey, why?
I think the reality is compound interest is one of the biggest handicaps that the banking industry has done to us. So what they've done is that anytime you do a 30-year mortgage, you're paying 2 to 3 times the amount of the house. So same thing with cars. So it is an illegal type of interest, and it is usury level interest. And when we do that kind of thing, we have that kind of thing, and they know it. And here's the thing: if they ever do a foreclosure issue, have they ever given you back a dime of whatever you paid in?
Yeah.
And I pause, on a dramatic pause. They've never given you a dime of interest. If you paid back, even if Scott went through 14 years of paying his loan down and paid off $150,000 of a $300,000 loan, right? And paid a massive portion of his interest, right? Does he get anything back when you go through foreclosure? He gets not a single freaking dime. So how does so when the house is foreclosed on, what they will do is, and Bob talked about it, so he can deal with that. I get nothing back for it. So I have to walk away and go find another domicile to get into, and get it with no credit on that house whatsoever. And so it is the biggest lie, and that's why we have to kill off that system. It was recognized by banker. My father-in-law was a banker, where they talked about how it was sick in the system. It will never be a part of that kind of thing in the future.
I think it was Einstein that said, when they asked him the most powerful force in the universe, he said compound interest. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you've got compound interest, then you're dealing with a manipulated currency system. And the reality is, for most of history, interest didn't exist. You might have had things like coin clipping and things like that, but in a fiat system where you can always print more and more money, whenever you want to, then you need the compound interest in order to siphon funds out so that you don't have hyperinflation. And once this changes and that goes away, the world will breathe a huge sigh of relief.
What do you guys think on this one? Bud Mark wants to know our thoughts on this one. Does the EBS system still kick this all off? I still believe it starts early on. You guys' thoughts, or do they keep it really quiet?
You know what? I grapple with this one a lot. I won't be surprised, but at the same time, I think this thing happens very, very quietly. Because there's so many people who don't have a clue. And if you look at like the man on the street interviews, like, there's a kid, Johnny, on Jesse Waters, who does man on the street.
Oh, that guy's funnier than spit.
He is, but the level of ignorance of the man on the street about anything, about history, about any of the things that we're talking about, it's scary. So I think it happens quietly. EBS is going to will play a part, whether it's comes first or during, either way.
It's chicken the egg. I mean, it's hard to say which one comes first, so yeah, you might say that's I have argued it. I mean, listen, I have done my own timelines for, end time timelines. Okay. And one of the hardest things I ever did is to set different spots, right? I mean, literally one of the hardest things I ever did. And I had a friend of mine, or this one person, he was like, where did you build your timelines from? And I said, Excel. And he was like, oh my God, why did you do that? I mean, you could have done them with a whole bunch of other abilities with that. And so I would move these things like with Excel, and there were like millimeters difference, right? And if I were to do a timeline with this kind of thing, which I don't have any understanding of it, right? I don't have, which one would go there. I would say the same thing, like with the EBS versus this thing versus that thing. I mean, man, I don't know which one goes first.
This one, I would love to talk to your sister. United We Stand said 18 years in this journey. My sister worked on a legal team that spent years writing the Iraqi constitution. Her knowledge was signed once Iraq completed all obligations. That's, I'm like, be fascinating to talk to people at that level.
Absolutely.
Better mousetrap. This might be a Bob question. I do not think it protects it, but if you put your house in a trust, can it still be foreclosed on?
So if you put it, then you're talking about the house is subject to a loan. So putting it in a trust, the lender, I mean, there's language in every lender document, loan documents, right? Mortgages and notes, that says that if you transfer into a trust, an LLC, or any type structure, that if you do that, you have to get the approval of the lender because they need to protect their lien position. And if you do it without the lender's permission, then the loan becomes immediately due and payable. Okay, it accelerates. So yes, you can put it in the trust. Will it keep the trust from foreclosing if you stop paying the loan? No. The lien position is still established, and it just goes in and it sues the trust in foreclosure rather than the individual who took out the loan, right? And the individual who took out the loan.
Right.
Actually, I'm going to switch up here because this one kind of dovetails with what we were just talking about. Susan said, I've been told to put it in a constitutional trust. Would love feedback. I assume they mean common law by constitutional trust. Bob, this is your wheelhouse.
That's what it sounds like. And that's all I deal with, right? It's, God, Mark, you and I started talking about this stuff, and I put together, my trust materials for myself, just looking at it from the perspective of common sense. If the fiat system goes away and we go back to Article 1, Section 10 money, right, then common law is the only system that can apply. And so I built my trusts to, under the common law, understanding that, a trust is just a contract, right? Contract between the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiaries. And you can choose what law you want that, you want to do it under Sharia law, you can do it under Sharia law. You can't necessarily do that under the corporate statutory trusts that are out there. And that's why I did this, because I anticipate we're going to common law. And so I'm not going to have to make any changes to any of the trust structure in order to move in the new system.
Judy said, I have an EIN number in my trust account. Can I deposit my RV money into that account without affecting my original trust account?
Well, can I just mention that one? I mean, every single trust I know of has to have an EIN. I mean, I don't know how you do a trust, because you can't, unless you're going to put it in your own name, which I don't know how you would do that. Because then that doesn't make it really a trust. A trust is the whole point of a corporation. I mean, like, I see people who like create things like as a sole proprietor. I mean, let's just go to the whole point. Like, I see people like they open up a taco stand, and then they don't create they don't create a corporation. I'm like, you're an idiot. You need to create an EIN as a sole proprietor, or as some type of LLCs, S corporation, whatever, so that you have some level of protection, and you build in layers of protection. All of that stuff creates something called an EIN. You get an EIN in that point. When you have a trust, go get an EIN. You don't get all sideways on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because common law trusts traditionally weren't required to get an EIN, but then post 9/11 know your customer rules changed all that. And so, what I put into my documentation is just an acknowledgement that, using a EIN, under duress, and establishing that it can't be used to change the nature or character of the trust itself, but it's there, and then you just move forward. And to me, don't make it too complicated. You have to do the EIN, just do it, and if you want to qualify it, fine. Then you're covered. And either way, if we're sitting down at the table exchanging, then that EIN becomes almost meaningless. It becomes just what Scott referred to earlier. It's just an identifier that's connected to you. It's not part of the tax system anymore, because we're not going to be taxing income.
Question for you. I did a revocable trust for my currency a few years ago, thinking I needed one. I wish I hadn't. Can I cancel or get rid of it? I also mistakenly put our name as the trust name.
Living trust, revocable living trust, the corporate statutory ones, estate attorneys will do that all the time, where they put the family name on the trust to identify it. It's statutory, so you're going to have to look at what the requirements are, but you can always change the name on a trust. You have to jump through some hoops. You got some paperwork that you got to do, but it's not like it's algorithms and rocket science.
With the cost of doing a irrevocable or something like that from you, or a different one, would it make any sense to make changes to the old one, or just let it die a quiet death?
Yeah, if you haven't used it, then yeah, you could just let it die.
Just ignore it, let it die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can just dissolve it. It's just a question of it's revocable, so you can take the currency out of it and take any assets out of it and just collapse it.
Is it possible to approach this new system as like the old system, only with power in my hands and not the banks? That's pretty much the way you need to.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be responsibility, in this system, and the things that you've taken for granted in terms of what the bank does, and that attitude of, well, they're ripping me off, but that's the cost of doing business kind of a thing. That stuff goes away and it becomes your responsibility. So you and whoever you choose to hire and bring in to help you to protect it and manage it.
MJ Bots with a question for you. Bob, when we go to exchange, can we put the funds into an account and later allocate the funds into a trust or trust he bought from you?
So if you got your trust from me, all right, there's language in there and you got everything signed and notarized as appropriate. There's language in there that conveyed your currency into the trust and the trust accepted it as an asset. So you don't have to do anything. That's already done for you. As far as accounts, you can, if it's a revocable trust, again, you can take any assets out of there that you want to. And in terms of setting up a, you want to have an awareness. To me, I've got 2 trusts that I established for the upcoming appointments. One has my Zim projects, one has my currencies. And I'm not opening up any bank accounts until I go to the exchange. That's the purpose of the exchange appointment, is to open accounts and exchange and redeem and put those things into accounts that I can then distribute as I want to, if I choose to open up additional accounts down the road. That makes sense?
Makes sense to me. Bob, your thoughts on LegalZoom.com being an effective tool for those with an average business aptitude?
I haven't used them.
I have. They were horrible. Don't do it.
Okay. So give an example, Scott.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I did for a 501c3 a long time ago. I mean, they were the worst thing in the world. Utilize a local attorney for anything you do. LegalZoom is the worst nightmare, and you'll spend more money than you'll go to a local attorney. Don't use them.
Yeah, in my book, there's a section on attorneys and how to locate them, how to screen them, how to hire them, how to manage them. And it's got all the resources that you need to find a good qualified, whatever it be, whether it be an attorney, a CPA, a wealth manager, investment manager, etc. I agree with you 100%, Scott. Just find somebody and be picky and understand that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay, right. You don't have to have everybody hired day one. You're not going to do everything the day after you walk out of your appointment. Take your time. Take the time now to prepare yourself and plan, and then just execute on the plan once it actually happens.
All right, now here I'm going to drop a grenade in the middle of the conversation and then just disappear and come back to you.
Yeah, I got one question left, and then I got to take off here too. So
many have said that we do not get birth certificate money as it was a fraud from the start. They want your thoughts on that one, guys.
You know what? That stuff I've looked, God, I've researched that stuff forever and ever and ever, and I've never been able to actually prove or disprove it. So to me, you get it, you don't get it. It's I think crazy to chase it. If it happens, fantastic, be prepared for it. In the meantime, if you speculated in some currencies, who cares whether you get the birth certificate money or not?
That's a good point, a good way of saying it. I think the reality is, first off, and I did a whole thing on the UBI last week. If you did it, if you looked at it and you didn't want to study what I talked about last week, go watch Mark's video last week and have a go at what I talked about. Number 2, the birth certificate thing is one of the most fun conversations that happen out there. The reality is, it is a true thing that they created speculation to prop up the stock market. It is an insurance that they speculated Mark. They took Mark and had a speculation about his ability. They also, when, you know, the day that Mark dies, I'm not predicting the point, but he will die someday or in the future, he will die. And to give you a better example, my
And just
father-in-law,
to on that front, I know nothing about the Clintons.
right, exactly. So my father-in-law died, and when he died, Social Security exited him out and pulled money out of his account 5 minutes after he died. They ripped money out of his checking account because I watched it. But guess how hard it was to pull his driver's license out of the state of Oklahoma. It took us nightmares to do this. It took us, we had to go to the voter rolls. Even in Oklahoma, it took us massive efforts to get him off of the voter rolls. How is that not the case? That's all birth certificate BS. So that's what they also utilize you in the birth certificate stuff. Okay. When the voter rolls, one of the things about the SAVE Act is to cancel the birth certificate things. The moment that the SAVE Act goes through, the birth certificate things die. When the birth certificate things, and by the way, I believe that the SAVE Act has already been done. The birth certificate things die, the whole system cancels itself. And we've talked about this. And by the way, if you read some of the old stuff, it's not even available to you. If you read some of the old stuff about the old conversations of Nasara, they actually intimated, but they never talked about it was ever available. For instance, if I have a life insurance policy for $500,000, I will just say it this way, and I had the life insurance policy for $500,000 for 10 years. At the end of the life insurance policy for 10 years, and I go, I don't want it anymore. I'm going to buy a new life insurance policy for $1 million, for a new life insurance policy for $1 million. Was there any money in that old life insurance policy? The answer is no. There's no money in it. That's the same thing as the birth certificate. I did the massive deep dive back in 2020. I spent 9 months on that thing, and it's not there. So, guys, I got to take off because I got to get ready for X22 Dave.
Tell Dave
Nice
we all sent over here.
See you guys.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's well, one, they're asking if you still create trust. Your thoughts on the birth certificate money? Possible, not possible?
The birth certificate is a funky creature. Okay, so think about it. You can walk into wherever with your Social Security card, and it states right on it. It is not a form of identification. But you can walk in to some place with a birth certificate, and it is a form of identification. It's a much more powerful document than people understand. Now, are they trading it? Do they set up accounts for each individual? I think it's absolutely conceivable. I mean, all you have to do is look at, the fiat money system they created, and the slavery system that they've created, and it's absolutely conceivable. It wouldn't surprise me. And I've spent many years, hours and hours and hours, trying to verify that and trying to get access to it, trying to get control over it, and I haven't been able to. But I believe that it's there. It's just that's for them, not for us, is basically where it's been right now. I've never found anybody who was able to actually get in there and get control of it. As far as trust, yeah, I've said I'm gonna continue to take on new people and assist them in creating their trusts until time for our appointments, and then after that, I'm just gonna I won't have the time for new clients. I'll do I'll be doing additional trusts for clients that I have, and then helping them build their professional teams. And so, yeah, you can get in there, and as always, I don't see getting rid of it. People that come from the MarkZ and Seeds of Wisdom communities. Those people, I will offer an installment plan to. I started out with that as kind of a let's test human nature and the ideas and the behavior of this community. And I expected to be disappointed and have a bunch of people, just default and walk away. And to date, there's like one. And
Wow.
so that will remain out there. I'm not going to deal with corporate statutory trusts. So you start talking about, a living revocable trust under state corporate statutes. I don't deal with those. There's just there's too much complexity. It's not necessary. I'll do it in common law and keep it simple, and what to anticipate, and how to manage it, and move from there. So yeah, all you have to do is just send me an email, and I can send people information on that for as long as we're waiting for these appointments.
And you email Bob at debtlawyer@gmail.com. If you're looking for his book, you can go straight to his website, therealbobblock.com, or you can just, my link tree has a link to Bob's site. You can just hit the link tree, roll right there, look for Bob, bam. You don't have to remember anything because the link tree is always in the video description in YouTube and Rumble. It's easy to find. Or
And Mark,
just go to the Real Bob Block.
And thank you. Single parent, one child. People create trusts, and a grantor trust is the most common, right? Where the person who creates the trust is the trustee, and then you've got beneficiaries. In my case, my children, my grandchildren, and then humanitarian projects that I will be funding. And if anything happens to me, I have designated my wife as successor trustee so that she will be there to manage. And if something were to happen to her, what I would do is designate one of my children, they're all adults, to be a successor trustee to manage it, so that the trust stays in existence, and you don't have any, you don't have to deal with any taxable events or things like that in distributing to the beneficiaries.
Jelly Bean having a tough time getting registered. I just got a trust from Bob. The IRS keeps rejecting me for an EIN number. Spoke with a lady at the IRS. She couldn't figure out why it's happening. Any suggestions?
Yes, and I may be wrong, Jelly Bean, but it sounds like the dreaded 101 error message. And if that's the case, what I found is that there's already a trust with that name or a very, very similar name in the EIN system. And so what I do typically is I'll just add, you can add letters, numbers, words, whatever, just take the existing name and add 2026 to it. And I would be amazed if you don't get your EIN right away.
Bob, for the separate Zim trust, do you specify that the money in is it for humanitarian side of the Zim and the private money goes into other currency trust?
So the beneficiaries in that are my children and grandchildren for the personal that comes out of the Zim redemption, and then humanitarian projects that I've listed out for the bulk of it as is intended.
Bob, if the IRS goes away, would that end the RMD requirement for IRAs?
Good question. I mean, when we're at our appointments, the system of finance, tax, government, and law all change significantly. So I think that any of those requirements will go away, will be simplified, or just downright eliminated. I mean, the IRS goes away, you're talking about income, and anything income related is not going to be taxable to you. So yeah, I would look for a much simpler lifestyle.
An important question: who let the dogs out?
That
was just funny.
Yeah. So life here, we have a German Shepherd puppy who just turned 16 months. And so she's deep into the velociraptor stage. And she's pissed off that daddy has closed the door on her. So I apologize for that.
What are your thoughts about a living irrevocable trust with assets added via schedules?
Well, I mean, I love irrevocable trusts. If you know that you're not going to make any changes to it, it's certainly the most solid structure for that one can use. Understanding that you can't ever take, you can't take the funds out of it once you put them in there, like you can with a revocable trust. The schedules are just there to list what assets that you have, who the beneficiaries are, successor trustees, managers, other people, custodians that the trust hires and things like that. So doing an irrevocable trust is a sound estate planning strategy. And just know that, you can't just be swapping in and out beneficiaries and making wholesale changes to it without going through a lot of hoops.
Will a trust protect your wealth so a nursing home doesn't grab all of your wealth?
That a lot of people come to me about this, and it's setting up a trust early may avoid the Medicare, Medicaid takings that happen, right? Medicare, Medicaid, the system is designed to take everything or most everything you have once you're gone, because you're using up their resources now. If you do it, there are time constraints, and you have to put assets into, say, an irrevocable or revocable trust. You have to put those assets into the trust a certain time in advance of when you're getting, say, hospice care or nursing home care, things like that. So you just have to look at what the rules are and do it from there, because they are going after people's wealth after they pass away.
BVL, can the trustee be the beneficiary?
So a beneficiary can be a trustee, but that beneficiary trustee has to understand that they have fiduciary responsibilities to any other beneficiaries that are out there. And that essentially they have to put the other beneficiaries' interests ahead of their own. So it happens. And you just have to make sure that if you do that, you've got somebody that understands that and can live up to those fiduciary responsibilities.
Question we get all the time. Let's see, what is this one? Make certain credit union or a regular bank with their dollars, if they had to pick one. Do you have an opinion?
You know what? I think credit union. And this is one of those things where, the system's changing, but the nature of banks doesn't change. And they're going to be trying to weasel their way through stuff. I don't think it's going to be possible, but they're still going to find ways to con people, through, some kind of service that, they pitch as essential, et cetera. Credit unions, you're a member, and you're one of the, you're inside that entity, and they're much more conservative, and they serve their members as opposed to the banks that serve their shareholders and the executives, et cetera.
Question about the placing of the RV funds in an existing trust. Will it negatively affect the funds? Doesn't feel like that one was answered or not if you put it into an existing one.
I'm not quite sure. I mean, there's no negative effect to putting RV funds into an existing trust. They just become trust assets. And
I don't see a problem with it.
yeah, whether the grantor puts them in there, I mean, anybody can put assets into a trust, and they just become assets of the trust that the trustee manages for the benefit of the beneficiaries.
Butchie, hi Mark, are there treasury fees embedded in the rates on the currency? And if so, what's percentage? I've been told fees are figured in, but it's between the bank and treasury, and it's about 2%. Have you heard anything?
That's all I've heard. And it's like the tax issue, right? You know, nobody knows exactly what and how the transition is going to take place. So we just have to wait and see and plan. So, you know, as far as taxes go, I know that the system is going away, but I'm going to set up an escrow account just in case at my appointment, and put whatever the taxable rate amount would be if they decide to, you know, assess those transactions. I don't think they will, but it'll be there. And so it's there. If they take it, then, you know, I go and claw it back later after the system changes. And if they don't, then I just repurpose it for whatever I want.
That's my plan. I just picked up extra currency for it. Blissful, how about having both an irrevocable and a revocable? No problem with that. You?
No, people do that all the time. People can start off with a revocable trust because they know they may want to make some changes, and then do irrevocable trusts for, you know, things like you buy a house, you buy a car, or whatever. And yeah, those structures work really, really well.
Polly Collie here. We got our trust from you, but it's not notarized. We need to make a couple of changes and add currency to it. Could you update our trust with changes? I understand they're a small charge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if, like I said, there's language in those trust materials that, you know, once you get it notarized and execute it where needed, then the currencies that you list in the asset question on the worksheet, those will become trust assets. They're conveyed to the trust, and the trust accepts them. If you just need to change the dates and a couple other things, just pop me an email and we'll get you taken care of.
J Slick Bob, should all assets A to Z be placed in trusts, or are some assets not necessary to do so?
Yeah, I mean, you can still, you know, operate as an individual with respect to different things if you choose to, and go on. I mean, understand that operating in trust is something that you can get comfortable with very quickly. If you can balance a checkbook, then, you know, because the majority of managing the trust is just paperwork, making sure that you document everything that happens with respect to the trust, so that you can prove that if anybody ever, you know, questions you about it, that the trust is legitimate, and the assets are what you say they are, and the actions that you take are consistent with the trust indenture.
What about Navy Federal Credit Union versus a smaller credit union?
I wouldn't see really much of a difference between the two. I would go with one where, you know, you can develop the closest relationships with the people in the union.
The answer to this one's no. They're not certified financial planners. No. Suggestions on finding one, maybe some things to look for in a financial planner?
Buy my book. I mean, there are resources out there. You know, the book lays out exactly, it gives you, you know, how to search for the professionals that you're going to need, how to screen them, you know, how to, and it's, you know, whether it be things like for attorneys, there's an organization called Super Lawyers, and it's got that and a number of other resources for each professional category that you can go through and locate anything you need. And it's not just here, you know, in America. It goes through and resources for numerous countries around the world, for Europe, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. It's got the resources that you can use to take care of that.
Question: is there an advantage to having a Wyoming trust versus trust set up in other states? I'm a fan of Wyoming.
Yeah, you know what? Wyoming and South Dakota have really been front runners. They're out there in the lead in when they first started
Personal privacy.
Yeah, in terms of privacy, using things like nominee managers and directors and trustees and things like that. The laws that they've set up are very, very strong and very good. Nevada's another place I've used that has a lot of value for those types of things.
Why a different trust for each asset? Example, vehicles.
So think about Teddy Kennedy, right?
Cat.
Yeah, right. You know, they came after Teddy for a wrongful death in a civil lawsuit, and Teddy didn't own anything, and the only thing they could get is that soggy car, right? Obviously, the family made a sizable settlement with them, but they couldn't get anything from Ted. And so to me, if you're talking about a sizable asset, if you're talking about a car or a house, an RV, a boat, et cetera, to me, I as a practice, as a general rule, I will put them each into their own trust, because then when somebody slips and falls in your driveway, human nature isn't going to change. There are going to be unscrupulous people out there. And, one of the biggest protections in using trust is insulation from liability. So they may be, you get into a car accident, they may be able to get that beat in the car, but they're not going to get your house, and they're not going to get your other trust assets, right? They're not going to get your bank accounts and things like that, unless it's in your personal name.
And Bob, what do you think of a dynasty trust like the Rockefellers set up for their family lineages?
Yeah, I want to say, I believe Nevada has made a lot of progress in terms of you can have any trust. Now, trust, there's a thing called the rule against perpetuities, right? Where a trust technically can't live forever. But there are ways that you can structure trusts so that they do pass from generation to generation, in which is what these dynasty trusts do. For the kind of things that we're talking about, if you've got, if you speculated in any decent amount of currencies or ZIM, then looking at something that can go on long after you're gone, long after your children are gone, it's something that you can do, and something that is worthy of doing some research for. In terms of what I use, my trusts have a 25-year lifespan that can be renewed in 25-year terms going forward. So technically, it could live forever.
Which kind of the goal here. Here's a question you may not have an answer for, but they have a need. Do you know an attorney I could contact in San Diego for medical malpractice in the San Diego area?
I have not run into any, and my advice would be look at something like go out to superlawyers.com and get them, search for it out there. You're going to get, and med mal, that's generally a contingency situation. So you're going to find the very, very best in the area.
I've had a question that I'm hoping you can expound upon before, and of course, anything that you want to add to today's. Folks that didn't buy metals, didn't buy currency, just waiting for this change, this reset to happen, some benefits for them, because there are a ton of benefits. Can they expect changes, maybe changes to Social Security, changes the way their taxes work, their protections, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a brave new world. I mean, it's going to be wonderful. Think about it. Think about not having interest. Think about not having, credit cards with 25% interest, which I just, it boggles my mind every time the thought passes through it. The systems are going to run better. The complexities that we deal with, right? Which, all of the rights that are being, drained away from us little by little, like, frogs in a pot. Life is going to, just transport yourself back, 50, 75 years, and you're going to have control over your life again. The government's not going to be all in your business. So it's going to be a much more peaceful place.
Much more, and your money should go considerably further. Mimsy, a driveway slip. If your land is fenced everywhere and no trespassing signs posted, are you then protected from getting sued? Just common sense, if you put a fence around your property and lock it, then the bum can use your pool for a skinny dip and drown.
Well, yeah, and I mean, understanding again, human nature is human nature. Anybody can sue anybody for anything. Whether they can be successful is another question. And my thinking is that in the system to come, there won't be as much of an ability for people to file frivolous lawsuits, and that'll be basically overseen. It's not now because the courts basically, they need the money from the filings, right? So they need the fees, and so there's very little oversight of that stuff. So I think that's going to change.
Does every trust need a separate EIN ? And thank you. I've got to make that the last question.
No worries. Yeah, if the trust is going to do banking under the current environment, then each trust has to have its own EIN, and that's not going to change. If it's not doing banking, then no, it won't.
Now it's time to sing happy birthday. And if you would like to take this one off, it's Las Vegas Waymaker, Camaro, Commando, Theodore, Jordan, Kim, Danny, where's will be Bait, Bill. I mean, this is up to you.
Oh, you're not going to want to hear me sing.
Where can folks, do you have something scheduled for another podcast you're going to be on soon, or do we just need to drag you back in here soon?
Yeah, no, I at this point, I'm spending, all my free time, finally getting my own podcast set up. It'll be called Anti-Radicals, and it's going to get into all kinds of things, the things we're talking about today, but much, much broader than that. And so I'm going to hold you to your offer originally to me, like a year ago, to be a guest down there for it. And I'm working on that. Other than that, I'm just working on the trusts. I'm finishing up a draft of a book that explains and compares corporate statutory trusts to common law trusts and what the advantages are for people, and how to set them up and manage them, et cetera. That will be coming out soon. And that's it. If anybody is interested in trust, let me know. And
that's debtlawyer@gmail.com. You can reach right out to Bob on trusts. Everybody wants to see the dog. They're hoping you'll let it in.
Hi.
There we go.
I know. I'm really mad. I know. Come here. There you go. Okay, sit. Now she's happy.
Now everybody in the podcast is happy too. They've been waiting.
She's like, all right. Hey, great. Always great to be here. Let me know anytime that you need a slot filled, and I will talk to you soon.
Take care, Rob. All right, guys, that was the original Bob Locke, the real Bob Locke joining us, and there's no E on his last name, Boblock. You can email him at debtlawyer@gmail.com. You can hit his therealboblocke.com to find out about his book. Follow him. It's his website. That link is also over on our link tree. Bob's in California, guys. Let's sing happy birthday to those folks. So they tell me it's your birthday. Well, happy birthday, darling. May you live, may you love, may all your dreams come true. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. To all those celebrating happy birthday. Now, what did you guys think of that format? Answering questions like that as more of a, I don't know, as more of a board of folks. Just kind of curious how that worked for you guys. If you preferred only one person, two people, if you liked having that whole group of people panel. Just kind of curious on thoughts, because I know a lot of folks have a lot of questions. Do you feel better if we bring in a couple folks like that? Tammy liked it. David, great idea. I was just really curious. I'm trying to nail down what helps the most people and puts in the least amount of work for all of us trying to help, because we want it to be efficient and effective. It was fun. Okay. We will work on it. Yeah, some of these questions, Brain Man, I mean, Bob's just more qualified for some of these questions, which makes him a great one to be able to add to it. I mean, that was his entire career. He spent many, many years fighting over these things as an attorney, even worked for the government and then worked against the government. So just wanted to get you guys' opinion on that. Zester is feeling considerably better today, not 100%. He is going to get most of a work day in, I believe. Okay. I will be back at 7 p.m. this evening. This one is not news related at all. It is about cannabinoids. I will be on with Lucas, CBN, CBG, CBGA, a lot of some of the differences in those cannabinoids that we will be talking about this evening at 7 Eastern. Looking forward to that one. But that one is really, you got questions, different cannabinoids, maybe what to expect this fall with law changes. That will be a one for you guys to check into. All right. See you guys. If there's any breaking news, I'll share it tonight, of course. Thanks, mods.